Hi everyone. Today we're going to start with the next couple of days looking at the form that we use to report our taxes, and that form is called 1040. Now, the 1040 form itself is only 2 pages long, but we may need to add several what they call schedules or addendums or additional forms depending on the amount of taxes and what you have to report to the government. All right, so let's take a look at this. So your employer withholds your federal, state, and local taxes every paycheck. We've looked at that. And we've looked at the fact that they report it on your W-2 form. Now, once you get that W-2 form, we're going to need to determine the actual tax that you need to pay over the past year. Now, remember, your tax goes from, this year's reporting tax goes from January of 2019 to December of 2019. All right, so there are 3 things that could happen. That your employer and what the government says you owe in taxes are exactly the same. That your employer took out the exact amount of tax that you owe the government, and it's a wash. You don't need to get a refund, but you don't need to pay anything. Unfortunately, that very rarely happens. Another thing that could happen is that your employer could take out more tax than you owe, therefore than the government says you owe, then you get a refund. And then the last thing that could happen is that the employer withholds less tax than what the government says you owe, and therefore you need to pay. Okay? So the form that determines all this is the 1040 form, or the 1040 SR, which is for the senior citizens forms. And again, it has several attachments depending on what you need to report. So there's a whole slew of terms here. So your tax liability is how much tax you're responsible for. So when you hear the word tax liability, that kind of means like you're liable for these taxes. Now, a dependent is somebody that either you're supporting financially or somebody is supporting you financially. So right now, in most cases, as students, your adult in your family is supporting you dependently or financially, so you would be considered a dependent. So there are standard deductions that every taxpayer is allowed to take, and you can subtract that from your income before you say this is how much tax, that the tax you're liable for. And we're going to look at that a little bit later on. An exemption is the amount that reduces your taxable income based on certain requirements based in the instructions of the 1040 form. And sometimes you're going to be able to claim yourself as an exemption. Now, adjusted gross income is the sum of all of your income plus other incomes and subtracted some things out of it. So you're adjusting what you said in your W-2 form that your taxes. Okay. Now, the form itself is called a 1040 form, and this is the form that we're going to use. Now, up until this year, there were other 1040 forms like the 1040EZ, the 1040 long form, the 1040A, and each one had a specific situation they were used for. So starting in 2019, they decided we're just going with one form. And if you had other things involved, then you attach additional form. Like I said, the form itself is only 2 pages long. So you have what is called the Schedule 1, and that's additional income and adjustments to the form. So this is used when you have to list itemized deductions and subtract those from your income before your amount of tax is looked up on the tax table. Now, Schedule B is where you're going to list your interests and dividends. So if you have investments, interest coming from bank accounts, stocks and bonds, this is what form you're going to use. Now, you have to exceed a certain amount to use this form. So if your interest and stuff like that is not above $1,500, you don't need to report that. Business income, which is your Schedule C form, this is all the information that if you ran your own business, you would have to fill this form out. And then E is supplemental income, details on royalties, expenses, things like that you may, let's say, maybe that you have an inheritance that you got, that might be on this particular form. All right, so let's just work on today with deciding whether or not somebody is going to get a refund or whether they're going to have to pay taxes. All right, so we have Ralph here, who's a teacher who works as a musician on weekends. And his income on his W-2 and all his 1099 forms, he has wages from teaching is $43,871. And then wages for music is $15,873. His interest is $863. He's got dividends of $350 and royalties of $1,200. So we want to know, what is his total income? So all we're going to do is add up all of his income. So 43,871 plus 15,873 plus 863 plus 350 plus 1,200. Okay, so we're going to add those up. And when I did it, I got $62,157. Okay, so please check me on my addition, but I'm pretty sure that's right. All right, let's try this next one. So we have Dale here, and his employer withheld $9,873 in federal tax last year. But when he figured out how much tax he owed, it was $8,792. So the question is, does he get a refund or does he owe? So if you look, his employer paid more than what the government says he owes. So he gets a refund because he paid more than he actually owed. So that difference between how much his employer paid and how much the government says he owes is going to be the amount of his refund. So the difference between that is $1,081. So Dale is more likely going to get that size of a refund. All right, let's try another one. All right, so we have Oscar here, who's single and has a taxable income from last year of $74,555. And his employer withheld $16,381. All right, so we're going to go back and use that tax table that we did earlier to determine Oscar's tax. Okay, so in our tax table here, we're looking at $74,000. Now remember, you can find this in one of your folders, and I think I did add it into this week's folder. So we're looking at $74,555. So that's going to be found right in this interval. And he is a single, so let's see which column of that would be. That's the first column. So it's $12,265. So $12,265. And that is how much he owes according to the government. But if you look, his employer withheld $16,381. So again, his employer paid too much in, so Oscar is going to get a refund. And again, if it was less, Oscar would have to pay. So let's find a difference and see if that's going to help get Oscar a refund. So 16,381 minus 12,265. So the difference I have $4,116. So it looks like Oscar's going to get a pretty good refund. All right. If you have any questions, please let me know. If not, stay safe by staying in. Talk to you soon.